Alright guys, how are you guys doing today? Hopefully all is well. We're actually going to start lesson 1 into what is Forex. And I'm definitely excited as we actually get started in today's journey and actually get into the foreign exchange market. But if you haven't done so already, the first thing that I actually want you guys to do is actually watch that Introductory to Forex video. And what that pretty much does is actually goes over, what the Forex market is all about. And it actually helps a lot of people understand it, while I will have the recap, which is actually this video, and it's pretty much going to go over a lot of the key elements that I want you guys to also know in terms of trading Forex and what Forex is all about. So the first thing that I actually want you guys to be aware of is that the foreign exchange market is also known as Forex, and it's actually the largest financial market in the world. You're going to have your buyers and you're going to have your sellers who are ideally exchanging one currency for another. So you're going to see that when you're trading Forex, you're actually dealing in currency. So it's pretty crazy to think, when you look at something like the stock market, you actually have to do, company research, see how that company's doing, so their stock might go up, But in terms for Forex, we're actually trading currency. So when you go actually, let's say, travel to a foreign country and you do need to go to the trading exchange booth, you're going to see that currency exchange rate. We're actually looking into that right there and seeing how we could actually find key and potential setups to profit off of. So we'll buy one currency, or we may even sell a currency, seeing if our opportunity comes about. And later on, we'll actually talk about, trading opportunities and all that good stuff. But as we continue, you're actually going to see that in reference to the buyers and the sellers, the buyers are actually called the bulls, and they like to drive the price up, while the sellers, or the bears, they actually like to push that price down. And you compared to that New York Stock Exchange that I was mentioning, a lot of people may ask me, hey, do you trade stocks, Wall Street, New York Stock Exchange? No, I don't do that because I find Forex is a lot more lucrative and gives you a lot more better opportunities rather than having to sit and actually fill out a portfolio and understand what's happening, right? So later on, we'll actually go into how we're going to analyze the market. But ideally, you're going to see that the foreign exchange market is over 200 times bigger than the New York Stock Exchange. In terms of daily volume, you're going to see that the foreign exchange market does about $5.3 trillion per day, while the New York Stock Exchange only does 22.6 billion. So ideally, you can see how that does impact where the foreign exchange market is so much more bigger. But you're going to see from that $5.3 trillion per day, retail traders, who are also known as you and I, we make up 1.5 trillion. So regardless, that's still great, high numbers, and a lot more in terms of that daily volume compared to the New York Stock Exchange. So the next thing is you're going to notice that the foreign exchange market is actually open 24 hours, 5 days a week. So it's going to open on Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to close on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So a lot of people actually like to trade Forex because it allows you to actually, accommodate your schedule, whether if you're working or you have school, where maybe you like to trade in the mornings, or maybe you like to trade at nights. So ideally, what we're going to do in the AJT FX Learning is actually show you guys how we could do that, take advantage of that, and actually find different currency pairs and have a strategy behind that so we could actually get profits and, avoid any drawbacks or anything. So the market is going to be composed of 4 trading sessions. And that's obviously, since it's open 24 hours, 5 days a week, you're going to see that your sessions are broken into your New York session, your Sydney session, your Tokyo session, and your London session. Now, ideally, each of these sessions represents, when you see that that area of the world fluctuating in terms of the banks and everything. And you're going to see news events go around that time. So that New York session ideally opens at 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. That Sydney session from 6 p.m. Eastern to 3 a.m. Eastern, the Tokyo session from 7 p.m. Eastern to 4 a.m. Eastern, and that London session from 3 a.m. Eastern to 12 p.m. Eastern. Now, ideally, it's going to look something like this. So pretty much with every single session, there's specific currency pairs that are supposed to be traded. Some that will move more than others. So you're going to see in the New York session, a currency pair might move great. Meanwhile, in the Tokyo session, it might not, and it will consolidate. So ideally, understanding that definitely will help you play into effect. But if anything, I definitely want you guys to take some quick tips in reference to when to trade the market, because the best times to actually trade it is when you see those sessions overlap. So for example, if we look at our image, we see that New York London session overlap, that London Tokyo session overlap, that Tokyo Sydney session overlap. So ideally the best times to actually be in that market is when that overlap is occurring, so you have a lot more momentum from both of those areas having that activity, giving more moves in the market. So the best days to actually trade in the foreign exchange market, the reason I say the best days is because ideally you can trade every day of the week, but the best days to actually focus on are Tuesdays through Thursdays. And the reason why is that it actually allows that market to reset from, closing on Friday, opening on Sunday. So we give it that time, that Monday, to actually figure itself out, so we could find some key moments to actually get into the market from Tuesdays through Thursdays. Something that I actually want you guys to avoid in terms of trading is actually holidays. Because you're going to notice bank holidays means that obviously the banks are closed, so you're not going to see so much movement. And that could potentially trap you, obviously holding you back from getting those profits, which would just be a headache, right? So ideally, I like to avoid trading holidays. Spend the time with your family, spend that time with your loved ones, and stay away from Forex. We could definitely take advantage the next following days. Ideally, another day to actually avoid is Fridays and Sundays. The reason is, on Fridays, you're going to notice the market closes. So what the market actually tries to do is trap the traders into staying in the market so that they can stay over the weekend, right? And what that actually does is actually at risk, because you don't know what's going to happen over the weekend, right? And the reason, one example that was recent was the Paris attacks out in France. I was actually looking at Euro USD. I wasn't in the trade, but after that event, I knew it was going to actually impact that market over there in the Euro section, right? So ideally, once that market opens on Sunday, you see it just crashing down because of obviously that what's been happening over there. So you see that obviously things that happen worldwide definitely do play effect into your currencies, into that exchange rate. So something that I want you guys to take note is don't overtrade. There's no need to overtrade, especially with the way that I've set up the strategies in the back office. We're obviously focusing on 4 to 5 major currencies, but ideally I only trade 1 or 2. I just wanted to make sure I have a lot more available for you guys, so for those individuals who may not have the same times like myself, you still have that opportunity to trade and take advantage of the market. But ideally, you're going to see in the back office, we also have the key sessions indicator, which actually tells you at what time and what hours to trade each currency pair, because obviously that gives you more momentum, better profit opportunities, and trading setups. And that's actually for you guys in the FX tool suite in the back office. Something you also want to avoid is major news events. And in reference to major news events, yes, like for example, New York session is at 8 o'clock, so already at 8:30 we have some news events. So something that you can actually do is, once you go to AJTFXlearning.com, you're going to actually be able to visit the Forex Tools tab and find that news calendar. And it will actually tell you, what the impact is, where it's going to affect it, and actually what type of news it is. So what you're going to notice is when we're actually trading Forex, we're trading currency. So ideally, you're going to notice that every currency has a pair to it. And that's actually what we're going to be trading. We're going to be trading a currency pair. And what that is a price comparison of the two currencies relative to each other's economies. So for example, you may have your Euro USD, which is your Euro, and then you'll have your USD. So a currency pair is actually will be broken into a base quote format. So for example, if we look at that Euro USD, which I mentioned, Euro, which is the base, and then we'll have USD, which is the quote. So then the base is actually equal to 1. So 1 euro is equal to then what that mark is on the Forex chart for USD. So the major currency pairs in the foreign exchange market are the Euro USD, USD CAD, USD JPY, AUD USD, GBP USD, USD CHF, NZD USD, And you definitely notice that USD is there, right? So you can see what type of an impact we make, right, when talking about currency pairs and actually seeing what's relative to each other. So ideally, these right here are the major currency pairs that you'll see a lot of the most common traders actually trade into. Euro USD is the most common traded currency pair. And ideally, each of these have their different behaviors to how they act and what can actually spark them to move in the market. So ideally, the key is not to trade every single currency pair, but to actually focus on one or two and actually see and learn and understand that. And that's why we actually have that behaviors segment in our back office, so we could actually go into every currency pair and talk about it in reference to that behavior and how it will react in that market. So ideally, every other currency pair is just a minor currency pair or an exotic currency pair. And Euro, for an example, you might see Euro JPY, AUD JPY, New Zealand CAD. These are other currency pairs. So ideally, just be aware that there are various, over 50 currency pairs that you could actually trade. And when we're actually trading, the goal is to actually catch something that's called a pip. So a pip is actually the measurement that's actually used in reference to trading. So you might hear somebody say, hey, I caught 100 pips today. Hey, I caught 200 pips. That's great. Ideally, traders, it's sad to say, but ideally they're not actually putting in effort into actually putting the risk to reward and actually calculating their pips. So they're trading naked. They don't know how to do things the right way. So ideally, having an understanding and actually catching pips will give us profits. So you actually will be able to see how we're actually going to calculate the pips in our MetaTrader 4 platform. But as we move along, you're going to see that the ways that we analyze the market are two different ways. So there's two different ways to analyze the market. Is a fundamental way, fundamental analysis, and pretty much what we're doing is we're analyzing the currency pair based on what's happening economically. Wow, that was difficult, right? Economically, socially, and politically in that country and in their news. So ideally, looking at that news calendar will definitely help at that fundamental analysis level and understanding what's happening in that part of that country. The next way that we're actually going to analyze the charts is the main principle that we teach here at AJT FX Learning, and that's actually the technical analysis standpoint. And what we're actually doing is we're utilizing the past price action to determine key levels or key entry points to where that market may react and actually move to. And you're going to notice, for example, when we look at it in the fundamental analysis level, this right here was what I was mentioning in reference to the news calendar, where you'll be able to see if it's a medium or high and low impact news, and you'll be able to see exactly what part of the country, the world is taking effect into that, and what news effect is actually going on. So you might see an employment change, you might see something, the non-farmers payroll. There's definitely a few that we're going to stick away from because they're very, very volatile. But ideally, anything that just say high, just try to stay away from that if you're actually trading in that market. You're also going to notice that when we analyze things, this is right here how we're going to take things at a technical analysis level. And pretty much what we're doing is we're actually looking at the currency pairs, seeing those support, those resistance levels of key price action. And pretty much this right here is a great example where, for example, as we go into the FX learning, we're going to learn, Fibonacci retracements. We're going to learn trading setups. We're going to learn counter trend lines. We're going to learn support and resistance. We're going to learn at what point can we look for a reversal. So, for example, if you look at this chart right here, you can see we hit that swing high to swing low on the Fibonacci. It hit that resistance level, and at the 61.8, the market is now going to crash to the downside, showing us an engulfing candlestick which closes prior to the 4 candlesticks and breaking out of that. So ideally, by understanding this, it makes things so much easier for you guys to actually get in profit. But the key is to actually understand these and actually take the time to learn it. So, I definitely want you guys to take advantage and actually go lesson by lesson, take notes, and let's actually get things going as we dive into, lesson 2 and progress within AJT FX Learning. So this is me, Anthony. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.